Joining me now, Jonathan Ruhe, Fellow for American Strategy at the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Jonathan, what's your reaction to the news that, quote, an agreement has been largely negotiated? What do you think? Could this mean, truly, that the end of the war is near?
Well, it could mean a lot of things. We've heard Trump say that a negotiation, a settlement is close on and off for weeks now. I think the devil will really be in the details, assuming there actually is a ceasefire at this point. The key things we'll be looking for is if and whether the Strait of Hormuz will be opened and whether or not it will, as President Trump has demanded, address Iran's nuclear program, or whether, as Iran wants, that can will be kicked down the road to a potential further negotiation.
Is it possible, you think, that Iran caved on some of its sticking points, thinking about nuclear ambitions, enriched uranium? Is it possible that the economic pressure that we have seen through the Strait of Hormuz and the blockade has actually pushed this ball to a place where they had to cave on some of those issues?
I would be pleasantly surprised if Iran has caved on anything. I've seen no indication to this point that they feel any compunction. They're certainly paying a big economic price for the U.S. counter blockade. They've certainly been damaged significantly militarily during the war. But at the same time, what's left of the Iranian regime thinks they won this round. And from what I've seen so far, they've given no indication that they're going to negotiate in good faith with President Trump.
So we knew that news might be coming down the pipeline because we heard that earlier today President Trump was having that call with regional leaders in that area, specifically Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Turkey, Pakistan, as well as some of the other countries out there. How important do you think a call like that is in actually reaching a deal?
So I think it's certainly important. We've seen that when President Trump wants to direct all of his diplomatic equities and energy to an issue, he usually gets some result one way or another, especially on Middle East issues. We saw that last summer with the war. We saw it with the Gaza ceasefire. We saw it with the Abraham Accords and other things in his first term. So I think certainly, with all the countries you listed, those are a lot of the key players, including ones that Iran's been willing to use as go-betweens, and Iran sees as key players in the region as well. So again, I think the question is less, will we get a ceasefire? And more importantly, what will that ceasefire contain and not contain?
Right. And what do you think their message is from those Gulf leaders, those Gulf nations, to the president at this time? If they're having a private call, what do you think they're saying to him?
My understanding and my suspicion is that they're saying a ceasefire at this point is critical. I think our Gulf partners are certainly caught between a rock and a hard place. And in some ways, they want the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened. Their economies and their societies depend on it. They do not want to see a return to conflict if that involves a resumption of drone and missile attacks on their critical infrastructure. So in that sense, they would certainly like a ceasefire to get some breathing space and to begin to recuperate some of the economic losses the Iranians have inflicted in the war. But at the same time, over the longer term, they certainly understand, I think as well as President Trump does, that an Iranian regime that comes out of this recent round of conflict thinking it won, thinking that defiance pays, and thinking that it ultimately holds the keys to the Strait of Hormuz will be very, very damaging and something that will have to be dealt with one way or another.
Yeah, and President Trump has most certainly hinted that if a negotiation and a deal isn't reached, he is more than willing to reopen the idea of military action. Let's finish with this. We know that President Trump has also said he spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu out of Israel. He said that was also a successful and positive conversation. Where does Bibi Netanyahu stand when this negotiation process is coming together? Is his opinion subject to approval for that deal?
It's a great question. I think the Israelis, this is not the first time they felt sort of caught in a wedge diplomatically here. They certainly saw it with President Obama and the negotiation of the Iran deal, which was done over their heads. And we've seen it multiple times in the most recent round of conflict where the Israelis have watched the United States essentially decide when the war ends and on what terms, at least for brief pauses. From my understanding, I think the Israelis view the current ceasefire that we've had in the past few weeks as merely a pause, a chance to regain their breath and recuperate before ultimately returning to trying to topple the Iranian regime, because Prime Minister Netanyahu, but certainly a lot of the Israeli security establishment, understand very acutely that this war doesn't end until this Iranian regime does.
And again, the breaking news at this hour, President Trump writing on Truth Social, an agreement has been largely negotiated subject to finalization between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran. That's Jonathan Ruhe. Thank you very much for joining us on this breaking news afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the impact of that